Hello, guys. Uh, you people have made Mr. Modiji win with a lot of margin. I must say that whenever it comes to votes, Modiji never fails. Modiji won by 70% of your votes, and today I'm going to present on Mr. Narendra Modi's Kundli. So let's get started. So, we are talking about the man at the moment, the man with so much power in this country, and the man who is respected by a lot of people in this world, Mr. Narendra Damodar Das Modi. So, today I am going to present about his Kundli and what can we see from his Kundli. There is very little information available on net about his personal life, but I have researched on multiple sites and I have found some limited information on his professional and personal life on Wikipedia. Today I'm going to open up his Kundli and I'm discussing about what made him the PM of India. And he started with Chaiwala in his initial life, and what does it take to reach to such a level from such a lower level. So this is his Kundli in the right side, and he has Moon and Mars in his first house in the sign of Scorpio. That is why you find number 8 written in his first house. And first I'll discuss about planet placements, and then I will discuss about what each planet represents and how life events happened in his life, and what are the roles of planets that were played in his life. So Moon and Mars in first house in Scorpio sign, and Jupiter, which is retrograde. Retrograde is something which is going reverse, like it is not going forward but it is going reverse. So it is a complicated concept which cannot be explained in this video, but it is a retrograde Jupiter, and I will discuss about retrograde planets afterwards, but for now it is in the 4th house, and Rahu is in the 5th house in Pisces, and Venus and Saturn is in 10th house of career, and Sun, Mercury, Ketu, all three are present in Virgo sign in 11th house. So let us discuss what these planets turned out in his life and what were the events that happened in his life. So initially, when Narendra Modi was born, he was born under the nakshatra of Anuradha, which is controlled by Saturn. Now, what is nakshatra? If you don't know nakshatra, then nakshatra is something which is into the sign. If a sign is 30 degree long, the 30 degrees divided into 2 and some little part of that sign. So there are 2 plus a small little part of one nakshatra. So there are 2 plus 1 nakshatra in that 30 degrees. So one nakshatra is 13.20 degrees, and the last one is having a smaller part, but this is what nakshatra is. So when you subdivide signs into smaller sections, that is called nakshatra, and when you see moon placement on that nakshatra, that means you are funneling down the characteristics and the personality of a person. So that is how it goes. So Anuradha nakshatra is governed by Saturn. When a person is born in Saturn nakshatra, the person has to start his life with poverty, because Saturn represents poverty. So his initial life was he was very poor. His family was very poor. He was born to Damodar Das Modi, who was a tea seller in the city of Vadnagar in Gujarat. So he helped his father initially in his tea business, in his tea selling business on the railway platforms. So that is how the level was, how the low level was in his initial life. That is what Saturn can give to you. But you will realize how Saturn turned out to be hero in his life, and we know Narendra Modi for as he is right now because of his Saturn. So I'll discuss that. But initially, that was the thing. When he grew old at around 8 years of age, at 8 years he got introduced to RSS. So very initially in his life he was introduced to RSS. Now notice that his first house has Mars Moon conjunction in the very first house. So what this means, when moon comes in the first house, it tells that the person's mother will have a greater say in his life. And you know that Mr. Modi is very very close to his mother, and you have seen many videos, and many times Narendra Modi also goes to meet his mother, and we have seen those videos on the news channels. So this is the thing. Now whenever Mars comes in the first house, it makes the person inclined towards doing physical activities like physical exercise, like yoga, sports. And we know that Mr. Narendra Modi is very fond of yoga and exercise in the very early morning. So whenever Mars comes into first house, it becomes the person very very disciplined, because Mars is a soldier, and soldier is very disciplined. He wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning very early during sunrise or even before sunrise in militaries, and he works out, he does exercise, he gets ready for his daily routine. And his daily routine is also set up that today I'll be doing exercise, and then after I'll be doing this training and that training. And so it governs all his schedule, and that is why Mars is discipline also. So this brings discipline into a person, and we have seen Mr. Modi is very very disciplined, and he wakes up early in the morning, does yoga, his exercise, his meditation. And we have seen a lot of videos about Mr. Modi doing exercise in the early morning. And whenever Scorpio is ruling the first house, it also shows that the person will be very very secretive. It is like Scorpio is governed by Mars, and it is like a soldier undercover. So Scorpio sign is like that. And whereas Aries is also governed by Mars, but it is the front side, it is like charging army of Mars. It is that phase of Mars. So Scorpio is like the backside of the soldier, and the soldier who does activities very secretively. So this brings the nature of keeping secrets in the native. So we are aware that Mr. Modi has kept secret of his marriage for very long time, since he was in the politics. But he talked about it very late, while he was taking part in Gujarat elections in 2001, I guess. So that secret part is also seen through Scorpio sign. Now let me make myself very very clear that I am making this video to make my followers understand that how these planets play a role in your birth chart, in your life, and how it carves out your life, how those planets carves out your life. And this is just the basic. I am not using any hi-fi fundas of astrology. I am using just the basics of astrology, and taking out some typical results of Mr. Narendra Modi's Kundli. So Mr. Narendra Modi was under Saturn's Mahadasha, because he was born in Saturn Nakshatra, as I said. Saturn Mahadasha, so what is Saturn in fact? Saturn is like service to the society. It believes in taking care of people. It is believing in, Saturn is like helping the underprivileged people. So at the very young age, he joined into RSS. RSS is Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. So that also explains how he was involved in social services. So this is how Saturn played a role in bringing him into the first step of politics, because he then consulted a lot of people in RSS. He met Mr. Inamdar in RSS, and that is when he was recognized that this guy has something special in him. He has Rahu in his fifth house, which means Rahu will be taking him, he will be forcing him to join into politics. Now, Mr. Modi had an inclination towards becoming a hermit in very early age. He left the house at the age of 18. This is what Ketu did in his life, and Ketu is known for the separation or isolation of a person from the society. So at that time Ketu was active in his life, and Mr. Modi was inclined towards becoming a hermit or taking a sannyas. He wanted to run away from these responsibilities of society and wanted to join ashrams and all. So that is what Ketu was responsible in his life. And Rahu was in 5th house, Ketu was in 11th house. 11th house is the house of desires and the house of hopes and the house of income. So Ketu triggered that thing, and he wanted to run away from this worldly desires and all. So this is what Ketu has done in his life. Now if we talk about Rahu in political house, the 5th house is known as the house of politics. His schooling, we see schooling from the 5th house of the birth chart, and he has Rahu in this 5th house. So this 5th house also governs education and your schooling. So there was a documentary on ABP News that Mr. Modi was not a very good student, and he was not a bright person in his school. So there was a documentary on ABP News about Mr. Modi that I have come across when I was researching about this, making this video. So there are teachers of Mr. Modi saying that he was not a very bright student during his schooling, but he was more interested towards theater and acting. So 5th house is also the house of cinema and acting, and whenever Rahu comes into this house, Rahu is like a magician or an illusion. Rahu becomes something else than what he is actually, and he can pretend to be someone else, and he can play a role. That is why we see Rahu in every actor's chart. Rahu is very strong. So Mr. Modi's Rahu is very strong also. Rahu is also good at politics, and 5th house is also politics. So this makes him very good and very smart, cunning person into politics. So Rahu, if you remember the story of Rahu, he changed himself into someone else. He changed himself into Deva and drank the Amrit because of his smartness and cunningness. So that is what we can make out of Rahu. Rahu is very smart and cunning, and he can find ways to go around to get what he wants. So Rahu is a good politician also, and 5th house is politics. This is why we have seen a lot of success with Mr. Modi's life in politics and career in politics. When this combination happens, it shows that the person will be very inclined towards politics. When Narendra Modi came as Prime Minister of India, the first thing that was introduced in India was Digital India, which is represented by his 5th house. 5th house is politics, 5th house has Rahu. So Rahu is technology and digital world.